It's springtime, so that means there is going to be lots and lots of roses in my future. So in this video, it is all about roses. We're going to be transplanting. We're going to be going to Tractor Supply and hooking myself up with some hybrid tea roses, but also pruning the climbing rose bush that I have out in the front. So let's go. What's going on, my plant peoples? I am the ADHD gardener, where I use gardening, houseplants, and humor as a much-needed form of mental health therapy, sobriety, and also learning how to navigate this crazy-ass world we live in with ADHD and nothing like a bunch of dopamine from roses. Now, I've never been a roses person. However, the hybrid tea rose is beautiful big blooms. And that's what I love about them. But not only the big blooms, is that they have long stems, which make for great cut flowers and making your own bouquets. Being that Jose doesn't want to buy me flowers, I can just send his ass to the backyard and go cut me some roses. So that's what we're going to do. But don't forget, we need to do a little pruning in my front yard for my climbing rose bush, because that's getting out of hand. I think maybe I will experiment also with how to propagate some roses too. Why not? This entire row here is about 24 feet long, and it is going to be entirely made up of a lot of flowers. If you wanted to plant other flowers aside from just your roses, it's totally possible. I'm going to be doing that with dahlias, but right now in this video it's just about roses. Now, we went to the store, Tractor Supply, and we got ourselves some roses, those hybrid tea roses. They're going to be making some great cut flowers, and that's exactly what I wanted, so Jose doesn't have an excuse not to give me some bouquet of flowers. Okay, so what I have here is I already have some pre-dug holes. Each rose flower is going to be separated by at least maybe about 4 feet. You could do more, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm limited for space, being that I'm only working with a certain amount of feet. So we're going to be trying to cram in at least 5 different type of roses in this row. Mind you, we can do this with containers. So if you have roses in a container, that is perfectly fine. I have a rose in the container right here. I'm actually going to be transplanting it out of the container into the ground. But if you see here in this container, it's actually doing quite well here. I actually had it planted last year. The containers, as long as it has well draining soil, you're pretty much good to go. The same type of elements or fertilizer that you're putting in the ground is going to be the same thing that you're putting inside of the container. You may want a little bit more added mulch on top of it, because the sunlight during the summertime will dry out the containers a lot more faster, and the same thing for the wintertime, in regards to insulation. But the requirements are still the same. But if you're going to be transplanting it out of the container into the ground, it's kind of almost the same thing. You just have to be careful for a little bit of transplant shock, but we'll get into that later on. Aside from just transplanting our roses from these potted plants that we got from the store, we're actually going to be pruning an existing rose and rose bush and my climbing roses that I have out in the front. We're going to need to do a little bit of pruning, so we're going to do some pruning as well as potting them up and transplanting them from the pot in the container into the soil. If you've already tested your soil, then you will see that maybe it's a little too high above 7.0. You may want to add a little bit of the soil acidifier that I have right here. Maybe I'll do a little sprinkle of the soil acidifier, but not too much, being that my soil is really not that bad. That is a good option though. But when we are transplanting any type of flowers into the ground, we are looking for compost. Lots and lots of compost. These are heavy feeders, heavy on the nutrients, heavy on the fertilizers. You can also do rose tone. Okay, this is a flower fertilizer just specifically for roses and flowers. If you do not have that, it's all good too. There are many different fertilizers and nutrients that you're going to be using for your roses, because they are heavy feeders. Now, I have 3 different types of fertilizers that you can actually use. I'm probably going to be doing a little bit of something of each one. If you do not have the rose tone bush, it's all good, because there's still an option of blood meal. That blood meal stinks. It stinks real bad. It stinks like crap. It really does. But essentially, it's full of nitrogen, and it's full of a lot of goodies that your plant is going to be using. Now, the blood meal, I wouldn't suggest maybe using it throughout the entire season, because I think it's more heavier in nitrogen, and nitrogen is going to be feeding the leaves. But it's great for in the beginning as a fertilizer booster. Pick your fertilizer, pick your option, but when in doubt, compost is always the best. Throughout the flowering season of your rose bushes though, you're going to need to add a little more additional fertilizer. So this is where the rose tone comes into play. For this hole, I'm going to add a little bit of the soil acidifier, not too much, because I don't really need it to drop too low, but at least just a little sprinkle of it and we should be good to go. When you do buy the plants from the store in their potted form, you may see one of two things. Some of them are going to be packed in peat moss or your soil, but others are going to be packed just like this. It looks like sawdust, to be honest. Sometimes, though, when you do order your roses from a website, it is going to come bare root, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Let's just say we shake this off. Bare root is going to look just like this, a bare root. They're going to pack it in the sawdust, for the commercial ways, but it's all good. You can still pack it like that. We've already added our soil acidifier. We already added our compost, maybe a little rose tone fertilizer, and then we're just going to put it back. If your roses are grafted, now you'll notice if those roses are grafted or not due to the stem, you'll see some type of like connection between a stem of one plant into a stem from another. The graft has to be above the soil. This one does not seem to have a graft, but even if it did, I would think that is closer to right up on top. So I'm just going to do part of the stem, not all of it. And we're just going to leave it just like that. Oh, this is going to look really nice. And all this extra sawdust, we can just leave it right on top. That's no biggie. You see them congregating? They're trying to get through that fence. I know they are. I know they are. Look at them. Notice that I had the netting on my fence because last year they would grab any single plant that was, vining on the fence, and they would eat them. So this year I got smart and put a little fencing on the bottom, so now they can't get to it. When it comes to pruning, I don't want to say two different type of ways. They ideally say to probably prune like maybe early spring or something. This is kind of what we're going to do. This is already established, this plant, even though I did transplant it. You're going to notice that some things or some of the stems grew, some of them did not grow. So this one needs to get watered. That's why these leaves are looking kind of shabby. However, there is new growth down here. I'm just looking around for all the dead stuff. That's not looking like it's gonna grow at all. It will grow again, no big deal. Oh, that just came off completely. Some of this will grow. If I'm pruning this wrong, then call this a learning lesson. Because right now, this looks like it's still, if it snaps that easily, they're probably dead. This one is a little on the greener side, as you can see here, a lot more greener. So this one obviously has some growth on it. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'll probably snip this one right here on the top, so it can kind of start bushing out. Maybe a little bushing out right over there. But right around here, I didn't see anything growing off of this. I'm probably gonna leave it. No, maybe not. I'm just gonna cut it. How about that? We'll find out what happens to it this year. How about that? There we go. All of that is my climbing roses. Now we do have to prune that. I don't have to prune if I don't want to, but pruning does encourage a lot more flower bud growth. And on top of that, with climbing roses, you kind of want to strategically put those vines wherever you want them to go for the season, because they do vine, they keep going. So a little pruning, a little haircut will do us some good. Notice that there's one main vine, but there is a lot of suckers. Do you see those suckers? You have the main vine, and then you have all the ones that are growing right off the top of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is going to be all over the main vines. Notice on top of here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of those are suckers. Now I'm going to need a ladder, and that means Jose is going to have to help me cut a lot of these suckers off if I do not want them to continue to grow. But if you do want them to grow, it's all good. But for now, I'm probably going to just cut a little bit of this off, because I do not want, actually I can probably get these roses to vine on there. Nope, there's too many roses. I'm just going to cut some of that off because I don't need any of that. A little bit of rose action right there. There's a lot of this. This will definitely continue to grow. So a little haircut will do it some good. Now this one right there, I'm actually going to try to vine that to the top of my house. See how well that works out. I don't know if this is a sucker, but I kind of don't need it. I really hope you enjoyed this video and you got some good information out of it. Let me know, do you plant some roses? Do you got some roses? I'm really interested to know, because I'm getting really into flowers, and frankly, I'd be nice to see like a whole bunch of flowers inside of my garden. And if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to smash that like button. I really appreciate it. Until the next episode, you guys, where you and me both are going to be growing our happiness one plant at a time, one day at a time. God bless you all. Till the next episode, peace and love.